Hello and welcome to MacFormat's weekly Apple Extravaganza. I'm Chris Finn.
I'm Matt Bolton.
And on this episode we welcome IBM, seriously.
Microsoft's woes.
And we talk to a glass hole. Let's start with news in the world of Apple. The big news this week then, of course, is the strategic partnership between Apple and IBM, which in some ways, obviously, a lot of people sort of looked at that and went, what the fuck? Because it seems like two diametrically opposed cultures. But that's exactly why it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to drum up any particularly uncontroversial opinions here. It's a really obvious good idea. Yeah. If Apple wants iOS stuff to take off in the enterprise more, it does need to offer certain enterprise features. And I don't mean features of iOS, I mean features of Apple, the long-term support that is expected in enterprise. And
yes, it's branding up Apple Care for Enterprise.
Exactly.
As delivered by IBM.
And basically, IBM stopped making devices and started doing that. Apple has never done that, but does make devices. It's just is obvious.
It makes a lot of sense.
This is what IBM has been doing for years with the devices that everyone used to want to use, with Toshiba, with Dell, with everyone else. So it's like... it's no surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise.
It obviously recalls the famous photograph of Steve Jobs giving the finger to the IBM logo. But that's not to say... I mean, a lot of people would be arguing, no, not if Jobs was here. But the hell with that. Jobs was an incredibly pragmatic man.
But
hugely
also,
pragmatic.
IBM is a completely different company
to
what it was then. Because I saw people saying about bringing up Apple smashing Big Blue, which represented IBM. Big Blue was IBM. Big Brother represented Big Blue in the 1984 ad. And you think, but it was just an advert. It sold computers. Yeah. But B, even if you delve into the symbolism, it was IBM's computers. It was the concept of them, the nature of them that was intended to be smashed. It was that IBM doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, as Jobs famously said, the what was it? The desktop wars are over. Microsoft has won, and it was that point of that particular style brand of computing at that time had very much triumphed. Not so much anymore. However, actually, what I wanted to talk about was not so much the merger itself, but
it's not a merger.
Sorry, it's not a merger. No, the strategic partnership.
Although they have just taken on a new board member who is an expert in merger.
She is
in acquisitions, one of the most powerful people on Wall Street, semi-retired.
Yes, which is going to be a very, very interesting thing. It does make you wonder if the Beats thing was the first of a salvo of acquisitions.
They have been making loads anyway.
Usually quite small.
So if they're going to get bigger in scale, then...
some sort of expertise in mergers and acquisitions makes sense. The press release for this was an interesting document for those of us inside the industry, for those of us who sort of watch Apple from the inside, because, well, for one thing, it was incredibly long, so ignore the highlighting for the moment, but that's the document there, and actually was on the back of that as well. Whereas this is a press release for an iPad, and actually, that really is the only bit that's interesting. This is pricing and availability information here.
And then you've just got your general...
And your gumph down there. Yeah. So this is actually the only bit. So for one thing, it was really long, and for another, it really didn't sound Apple. This is obviously one that's been very done in close collaboration with Microsoft, with IBM. So you've got things like transforming enterprise mobility. You've got grounding in 4 key capabilities. You've got a quote from the chairman, president, CEO of IBM saying, "Mobility, combined with the phenomena of cloud and data, is transforming business in our industry in historic ways, allowing people to reimagine work, industries and professions." Work, industries and professions.
Phenomena is a particularly poor choice of words, implying that it just
happened.
It was something that occurred. No one's really in control. Don't hang your business on it then.
Apple will build on our momentum in bringing these innovations to our clients globally and leverages IBM's leadership in analytics, cloud software and services. It's not quite as bad as Satya Nadella's letter, which had the word synergy 3 times in it, but it's still quite different. And we have noticed a different wind blowing from Apple, haven't we, in PR terms? Now,
this is a third wind, though.
Yes.
This is an entirely separate wind.
It is, but Apple used to be very, very predictable for those of us inside the industry, not in terms of what it would do, but in terms of how it would do it. The communication, sort of the ideas, the corporate attitude, you could absolutely define what would happen. These days, we're not so sure.
Yeah.
Apple's been dealing with us in a different way.
There's some stuff that we can't talk about.
Yeah.
But generally, there's lots of stuff that everyone potentially can have seen, which was... Craig Federighi taking photos of people at WWDC and generally a more casual, open approach in the aftermath of WWDC, and that seems to be continuing.
Yeah, and it's also, it's not just in those communications, but it does seem to be a broader corporate culture. And I don't think, because a lot of people have said, well, Katie Cotton's gone, the old head of Apple's PR, and she embodied this really top-down controlling way of doing things. So she's gone, so it's all changing. That seems bold to me.
She will have instilled her
ethos.
Yeah, her culture in the people who are there.
Yeah.
So if something's changing, it's been directed to change.
Yes.
It isn't just she's gone.
Well, the cat's away.
Everyone else is finally, oh yes, I can move. I can just give all the information.
But it will be really interesting to see how this plays out, because it does seem like we're entering a new act of Apple. It sounds like we're at the cusp of something quite major in the way Apple deals with the outside world, which is not. It's a bit like Japanese policy of isolationism. Apple seems to be changing now. We shall see how that plays out.
Indeed. Let's move on to the wider world of tech. You mentioned Satya Nadella, the new CEO of Microsoft. Big news for you on the Extravaganza. The new CEO of Microsoft's letter that was...
He's not the CEO of Microsoft's letter.
No, well, he was. He's the CEO of all of it.
Queen of Hearts.
The letter from Satya Nadella,
who is the new CEO of Microsoft.
Yay! Was just corporate speak bingo.
I started reading it.
3,000 words or however long it was. Ludicrously long.
Like I'm in the industry. I'm the editor of a magazine that cares about this stuff, and I couldn't get through it.
What you said cares about this, like not about just corporate wank. But, now they are laying off a lot of people.
Big
18,000 people.
A lot of those from Nokia.
12,500 from Nokia, which is about half of the people they took on from Nokia. Microsoft has 127,000 employees-ish in total, apparently, which is quite a lot of people.
That's a big number of people.
But it's the word I used that you missed at the start was Microsoft's woes. But the funny thing is, it's still making quite a lot of money, loads of money, in fact.
Yes.
So it's an interesting move. They obviously aren't having to plug horrendous cash shortfalls, but. So you'd assume that therefore it is a move to shore up the future direction of the company, and yet you've got Satya Nadella putting out all these letters and other releases that don't show an obvious direction. No. It was funny because when he was made CEO, everyone went, this shows a clear direction for Microsoft. Focus on the cloud, blah, blah, blah.
And he's talked about innovation. This is an industry that doesn't respect tradition, it only respects innovation. We thought we're going to see a reinvention, we're going to see an abandoning of Microsoft's hegemony, and let's move forward.
But all we've seen so far is a thick miasma of nothing in particular. He did mention being in the new world, intending to be what powers the cloud platform, but it was like 4 words out of I don't know how many. It was a really strange thing.
Quite seriously, what was in the letter? Because I genuinely, I started reading it in the bus, I must confess, but I was starting to read it and I got a few hundred words in, and then I noticed the size of the scroll bar at the right hand side of the iPhone screen. It said, this is quite long, and I scrolled and I went,
But I mean, there really wasn't concrete stuff in it. A lot of people predicted that layoffs would come from it because it veered off into these kind of hard decisions, change for the company, blah blah blah. The words that usually when you're about to tell everyone something but you haven't said it yet. But that was the closest thing to concrete. Like it was just one of these. When you have companies that are in more trouble than Microsoft put out a letter than that, you go, you've got a couple of years left and that's it. Microsoft makes way too much money for that to be the case, and would have to be so incompetently run to not successfally keep moving into being a cloud provider, because by all accounts it's cloud services that it offers for developers.
The Azure stuff.
I'm not talking about SkyDrive, which supposedly is perfectly good, but
the actual computing platform.
Its computing cloud platform is supposed to be fantastic, and loads of the biggest iOS apps run off it.
Mark Arment's a big proponent of it, I think.
And that they make a point of sponsoring John Gruber's site, because they're not there's no point in being precious about platform anymore. That is the entire point of the cloud.
Yeah.
So, by all accounts, Satya Nadella is very, very smart. He is an expert in the cloud. The cloud is the future. You'd assume they're not going to muck it up.
Yeah.
And yet, they really sound like a company that is in the process of mucking it up, which is bizarre.
Without wishing to overstate the role that we play in society, that letter needed an editor. You needed someone to say, do you know what, what is your message? What is it you're trying to say here? You can probably say it in 300 words.
Yeah.
Rather than the 3,000.
Or just someone to reply and say, this paragraph, what's happening in this paragraph? What are you saying? There
was an echo of that in the IBM thing, because this section here of 4 bullet points is replicated with more detail here in 4 hyphens. Like, it's just the same 4 points, slightly expanded. Which at least is a bit clearer.
It wouldn't surprise me if Apple had basically just let IBM write that. And because
that's how they do it in enterprise.
It's not going to be especially picked up. The press release language isn't going to be picked up in the consumer press. Yeah. So Apple's not worried about how it gets presented there.
And this talks to how enterprise people talk.
Exactly. They're used to
having things leveraged.
Exactly. Translating IBM and Microsoft and whoever else's opaque happy language.
Yeah, it's mental, isn't it? All right. These old things. So, to help my Ray-Ban glasses, because they're old hat, all they do is correct my vision and allow me to see properly.
Useless.
Instead, I have
Google Glass,
which doesn't help my vision in the slightest in this model, although you can get the model that have prescription lenses as well. There's, I think, 4 or 5 different frames you can get that you can actually put prescription lenses in instead.
Yes.
But what we have here...
And you can just get sunglasses that are non-prescription and stuff, can't you?
So I can indeed click on some sunglasses, which I'm not going to do, as well.
Don't you want to be cool for all the people at home, Chris?
Well, I'm wearing Google Glass. How much cooler can I get? So the way these work, basically, I've got a tiny little screen up here. If you don't know Google Glass, the idea is I've got a tiny little screen up here which I can look at and which can demonstrate, put information up. I can link it to a smartphone, and I can do things with it. And you've got to activate. You've got to bring it out of sleep. So I can either tap it and say, "Okay, Glass."
I can see a little screen in your. You've got a little Borg light in your eye.
It's now just listening to what you said, which is not helping anyone. So, shh. It's a little tricky. I'm not quite used to this. This is the first time I've put these on. Take a photo.
Just say "Okay, Glass."
Well, not if I tap it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. We have successfully managed to take a photograph using this. Anyway, point is, I can then do a bunch of stuff and I can do voice commands. But the thing I like most about it is, so I can either tap it to wake it up or I can do a gesture to wake it up.
Give it a go, Chris.
Which is like this. You ready?
It worked.
Yeah.
I can see it.
You can see, I've got my little screen up there.
Yep.
So you can do that. Which just seems like...
and then you say, "Okay, Glass, take a picture."
Yeah. But that seems like such a mental thing to do, don't you think?
Just a little flick?
Yeah.
Not when we're all doing it.
That's the thing. It's a bit like everyone around the street is going like that all the time.
Which people, like, it's fine for British people. I can just mix it in with my tutting.
Yeah.
Take a picture of this queue.
Or you can do it in America, just like, "Sup."
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, America and Britain are fine for this. Everyone else is a bit screwed.
Could you do it with shrugging for the French?
No, doesn't work.
It's on.
There you go. Yeah, it's come on that time.
How can I see it and you can't?
Part of the problem actually is that I'm short-sighted. I'm myopic.
Yes.
But I can't. This doesn't focus for me.
I have a question. We'll come back to your point in a second.
Thanks.
We've forgotten to set any kind of timer like we do normally. Does that have a timer in?
I don't know. Should we try and find out?
Yeah.
Okay, Glass. Set a timer. I'm getting nothing here, and I'm getting a shake from over there. So I think we can't set a timer using it. However, that's fine. We'll just talk for about 5 minutes.
A little bit longer. Yeah.
It'll be fine.
You can't see.
I can't see it. I can kind of pull my eye focus so that I can read it off. But I hadn't even expected that, because I assumed that because I'm short-sighted, because this is very close to my eye, it's a short distance.
Yes.
I'd have been fine with it, but I'm not. So you need to have good vision to be able to actually even see this at all.
Sadly, for the purposes of testing diversity, I am also short-sighted and also can't see it. If I'd been long-sighted, it would have been an interesting...
but it doesn't work. But the societal impact of something like this is interesting. Never mind the technology itself, which is interesting, definitely interesting. But the societal stuff is interesting, which is why in the next issue we've got a feature all about what it's like to actually wear one of these around and see what it's like.
Yeah, see how people actually react. Not there's loads of stuff around about what it could be and what it could do and how it could change stuff.
And that's the technological stuff as well.
Yeah,
as society.
but you can buy one now.
Yeah.
You can own one now, and if you do choose to do that and you wear it out, when will it be useful?
Yeah.
What will you use it for?
Put my glasses back on so that I can see you.
Mine off.
It's £1,000.
Yes.
It's not a small amount of money.
No.
But that's not really the point, really. I mean, the people who are buying these are buying them because they're fascinated by what the technology can do.
Yeah.
And what the changes might be, and they want to be part of those changes and part of the discussion about that societal thing.
Yeah, and it's the things like always having a camera available that could record anything, and who knows. I mean, I guess the privacy thing is never going to go away. There's a certain element of trust.
And that has a real impact with Google, particularly.
Yes. That's a PR thing that stretches beyond the device and into the company that makes it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there are some people who would see this as an absolute dystopian nightmare. Let's not be coy about this, particularly because Google's doing it.
Yeah, but as I say, there's just a certain element of trusting yourself to wear it, trusting the other people. You can imagine getting to a point generally where it would be okay. There were fears over smartphones and their cameras being everywhere. Like, I'm not saying the fear about this is wrong or will go away, but you can, if you're making the decision whether to buy one or not, you can imagine just forgetting the fears of others for a bit. Just imagining, how will I use it? I will trust myself. I will be okay.
It does work with iOS, doesn't it?
Yes, there's an iOS My Glass app. It works, as far as I know, exactly the same with Android as with iOS. In all cases, it just needs an app that connects connects to it by Bluetooth, and it just passes the stuff it can do back and forth.
So your phone's your gateway to the internet and everything else from there, and that passes information in through to the glass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any compatibility issues unless you're a Windows Phone user. Lol.
I'm assuming that our representation of Windows Phone users and our viewers is even lower than the industry representation of Windows Phone users.
If you are that one person, though,
by
do
all
leave a comment
below.
on this one. Yeah.
It's comfortable, though, isn't it? I was surprised by how comfortable it was to wear.
I noticed the lopsidedness.
It's possibly
only because it's got the battery pack round here and nothing here. Maybe if it had two battery packs, it would have better battery life.
Yeah, because battery life is quite poor.
If you're using it a lot, you're not going to get a full day out of it.
Yeah.
And it's not a replaceable battery, so it is a charge and go. Although presumably I could also have a big battery pack carrying
big
around
long cable into the micro USB port.
My bum bag, and then the cable that comes up.
Maybe it's only comfortable for us because we are glasses wearers.
We are used to it. Although it uses like bridge pads and like. My old glasses had bridge pads, but I moved away from them a while ago to just ones that are just kind of just a solid bridge rather than pads on arms. Yeah. So I'm really noticing those.
Yes, there's little points there rather than these smooth surfaces that you and I both have in our glasses.
It's uncomfortable, but it is not what I'm used to.
Yeah. Well, it'll be really interesting to see how it pans out. It works with iOS. There is an Apple angle to this, but ultimately this is a sort of standalone thing. This is a technological change of itself. And it'll be really interesting to see how society reacts to it.
Yeah, it just needs the internet connection. So you could sort of imagine in X number of years that can be built into just a device this size. Yeah. And it won't even be a phone adjacent tool at all.
Yeah. Talking of tools, there's a definite concern about wearing one of those. I think some people would judge you for wearing them around. I think we have the phrase glass hole doing the rounds. There's a definite concern from society about these things.
There is,
but that's part of why we're writing the feature, to see what society's reaction actually is.
This is the thing, because a lot of the reaction we're hearing is from the social media echo chamber.
Yeah.
So, do people outside of the technology writers and the interested,
the Twitterati,
as it were, is there a version of that for Facebook?
Idiots.
No is the answer. But just the people who either haven't heard of it yet, or have heard of it but haven't read all of these articles that concerned about it, and still have yet to form opinions about privacy. Yeah.
Put your glasses back on. You're slightly weirding me out. Your eyes look too small. You're not wearing your glasses. let us know what's happening with. Let us know basically what you think of all that in the comments below. And the same for the two other earlier segments about IBM and also about the thing you talked about, which was Microsoft
and its direction
and firing people. Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget as well, you can comment. You can in fact subscribe to the YouTube channel for MacFormat at youtube.com/MacFormatUK. You can look at previous episodes of the weekly extravaganza by clicking the link in the middle of your screen. And before you do any of that, you should definitely try the interactive iPad edition of MacFormat at macformat.com/iPad, where you can find a free trial subscription with no obligation, and you can cancel it if you want to afterward. But why would you want to? Because it's wonderful.
It is.
That's it for this week. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
And as always, I was so focused on the things I was saying in my introduction, I just didn't listen to what you said at all. It's always a surprise to me when you start talking. Am I still filming, Tom?